What is the worst case of post-nut regret you've ever had? I messed around with a girl just after being discharged from the USMC. Alcohol was involved, and one thing led to another. Turns out she got pregnant, but we discussed this before, and she was going to get an abortion. I gave her 200.00 for this, but instead she chose not to go through with it. Now I pay 800.00 a month in child support to a person that I despise, and watch as she has a much better life than I do with my money. I lost my truck, my job, and I suffer from really bad depression as well, and I'm constantly deliberating on whether or not eating a 9mm would be the best fuck you I could deliver. Having sex a few times. After I broke up with my manipulative ex, she would play nice for a few days, then we'd had sex, and she'd try to get back together. Found out a couple days ago that she has been sleeping with at least one other guy as well, all while telling me she was only sleeping with me. She's tried to trap me into a pregnancy before, and I have a feeling that's what she's trying to do again. Needless to say, we aren't going to be having sex again. Well shit, this brings back memories of one of my exes. Forgot to take her birth control pill. My ass. My guardian angel saved my ass from having kids. I slept with my best friend. We had made all these rules and deals that ensured we'd stay best friends forever. We did it a few times. She fell in love and I didn't. I ended up breaking her heart and now she wants nothing to do with me. Like what? I'll never stop regretting her loss as a friend and she'll never stop hating me. She's probably always been in love with you. She was probably hoping sex would open your eyes and make you fall in love back. I met this one girl on Tinder and we finally decide we are gonna go and fuck. She told me beforehand that she's only ever met up with one other guy on Tinder and they dated for 8 months. So after we fucked, she asked if I wanted to see a movie with her, and I agreed as to not seem like an inconsiderate asshole, and the whole time she kept on calling me babe, and kept on trying to kiss me in front of everyone. All I can tell you is that was the long 2.5 hours of my life. What did you see? Best one that comes to mind is probably with my most recent, now ex-girlfriend. Our relationship happened super suddenly and got really fucking intense. She also had baby fever and fell for me hard. Very early on, we discussed condoms being a must, and then she pretty quickly changed her mind. So we fucked without condoms. Then, she had the audacity, mid-fuck, to beg me to come inside of her. Even after we discussed contraception and talked about not doing that. She was on birth control, but also mentioned that she forgot often, and I'm not fucking chancing it. She did this to me a few times, only asking for it in the middle of having sex, before she realized how shameful and shitty it is to do that. One time I was a split second away from actually doing it, and I guess that's among the worst of the post-nut shame we've both experienced. Every time post-breakup that I fucked my manipulative, bipolar ex, we always had great sex, amazing. I would say my top 3 sexual experiences are all with her. But I always knew what would happen. She would randomly text me for booty calls until I caved, then we would fuck. Then the 3-month cycle of toxicity would start, only ending when I stopped talking to her again. 3-6 months later it would start again with the texting. So probably that, multiple times. Hooked up with an ex, instantly regretted it. She wanted to get back together. I just wanted to come on her tits. Did you come on her tits though? Asking the real questions. Had sex with a coconut. Felt bad about it. The coconut was nonplussed. God damn it. Never changed it. Get out, you heathen. She wanted to do it without a condom. We'd been off and on for a while and I knew she was on the pill. I'd seen her taking it, but was being extra careful. The one time, at the end, she wanted to go without to make it extra special cause she'd never done that with anyone. So I went for it. I didn't really worry about it. Except, then she disappeared. And I didn't see her again for a long time. And I always half wondered if maybe I got her pregnant. Arya Stark's sex scene. Not the Stark I wanted to see naked. I also think they took Ned out too fast. My first time. She blew me and then stopped to get on top. During that time, I lost my erection, and so I spent the next 5 minutes trying to jerk myself back to it. Ended up staying soft but came anyway. Virgin fuck up. Probably when I chipped a tooth on an almond. $200 down the drain. Did you still swallow the nut though? Spitters are quitters. A real man never quits. Hooking up with my manipulative ex because I was horny. You and me both, buddy. That sex was amazing, but the aftermath was guilt to the maximum. Had a one night stand with a friend who communicated ahead of time that she just wanted to hook up and blow off some steam during spring break. The next day she told me she loved me and I didn't have those same feelings. I'm convinced we'd still be friends if we never slept together. My first time was with this girl I absolutely hated, and I had done it out of spite because my ex had dumped me for not being ready to have sex. And then I got stuck in a 7-month relationship with this horrible girl because I made stupid decisions when I was emotionally compromised and refused to admit it instead of just dumping her. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. About 15 years ago I fucked my boss' daughter after the work Christmas party. I was the junior developer there and was the golden boy until that point. He phoned her in the morning when I was already knee deep in the fear and she just casually told him she was next to me in my bed. I lost my job not long into the new year for having an untidy desk or some other made up excuse. My biggest regret is that I lost my job and I didn't even get a nut because I was too hammered. Did you go after them for wrongful termination? He had an untidy desk, dude. Sleeping with his boss's daughter had absolutely no relation to his firing, of course. I was whacking to a Mariah statue at the back of this church. I felt disgusted after, but in my defense, that statue had some real boobies on her. Thank you. I got really tired of reading about shitty exes. This didn't help. So this happened last year at college. I was kinda buzzed on a Tuesday afternoon and I started getting kinda horned up. So I go on Tinder and swipe through my matches and find a girl that's not too hot but not gross. I hit her up and she immediately wants to smash and I tell her I'll do it, but she's gotta pick me up and take me to her place an hour away. So anyway we get there and do the deed and right after I finish she climbs on me and starts saying stuff like that was the best sex ever. You're great, etc. And I'm thinking, girl, I lasted about 4 minutes and 2 of them I wasn't even doing anything. That's when the post-nut clarity kicked in and I go, oh hey yeah, I forgot I have a team lift at the gym. Yeah, gotta drop me off like now. So she drops me off and starts saying stuff like, when will I see you again? I just said thanks for the ride and went into my building making sure the keycard door locked behind me, never to be seen again. She still DMs me on Insta saying how I ruined any relationship she will ever have with a guy because I was the one girl gym a break. I'd fuck her again, but I'm known to live dangerously. I've thought about it, but I always beat my meat before I make rash decisions. Drunken hook up with a rando. Little older and bigger than typical target demographic, but it was last call and she was fun and had huge tubes, hot and heavy, blowjob in the elevator, etc. Got her back to mine and went to work. She was a little uncomfortable in her own skin and had a hard time letting go. Gave it my best shot, but after a couple hours I threw in the towel and passed out. Next morning I awoke to goo goo eyes and hi baby. She was all about lounging around and having another go. Tried not to be rude, but she wasn't getting the message. So I asked her if she wanted coffee, which I served to her in bed. In a go cup. Lid on. Legend has it, she is still in your bed to this very day. Savage, but classy. Askreddit. People of Reddit, what are some of the guy code and girl code unwritten rules that you always follow? When a girl says I won't tell anyone, what she really means is I won't tell anyone except my best friend. Source, girl. I won't tell anyone that you know. If you hear anything about a girl having a thing for your bro, you tell him immediately. I don't care if you're in the jungle with no cell phone service. You walk back to the nearest cell phone tower and let him know so he can get laid. Never steal a bro's large fry or the accidental curly fry. If your friends help you move, you are expected to A. Be packed already and B. Provide pizza and beer. LMAO. I hate how many times I've showed up to help friends move and they have nothing packed and not enough boxes. What should take a couple hours turns into an all-day marathon. Treat your friend's girl as if she's a guy. Guy code. Never try to get with a friend's past flame without explicit discussion and permission. Gas your friend up when their crush is present. Driver gets the aux cable until responsibility is delegated. Heart-to-hearts are 4 after 3 am. My girlfriend was telling me last night that she always carries an extra pad or tampon because you'll never know when another woman may need one and not have one. She said it's an unwritten rule for women that even if you hate the person you will give them one if they need it. Got me thinking, what other unwritten rules have I not heard of? Edit. Front page y'all. Cue my sister. She carries 2 kinds of pads and tampons for backups. For the people she likes, she carries the fairly nice stuff that she uses herself. For the people she doesn't like, she carries the cheapest, nastiest dollar store tampons and pads you can imagine, made out of cardboard and orphan tears. Yeah, my sister is petty. Girl code. If something is fixable within 5 minutes, makeup, something stuck in teeth, small things on appearance, you tell her and help her if needed. If it isn't fixable on the spot, you keep your mouth shut and especially don't point it out to others. Last slice of pizza or last pop/beer always goes to who paid for it. If you all chipped in, you don't have to ask, but you have to tell. And never take both in the same hangout, no matter what the earlier rules say. Never mess with the music in another person's car. Don't care how crap you think their taste is. If you know someone else had a regrettable hookup, no you don't. Not even if you fall out and become enemies. You don't remember. No, haven't seen him at the pub. I only had one chance to exercise this girl code rule, but once I was passing a girl in the lobby of a building, and she told me that she had just gotten a straight perm and was waiting for the rain to pass before she went outside. So I let her share my umbrella for 4 to 5 blocks while we walked to a bus stop together. I would do that for any woman if it happened again. Perms are $200 plus, can take up to 3 hours, and are ruined if you get them wet within 48 hours of having the procedure done. When your best friend dies, you have to delete his internet history. Common courtesy. If you sell a buddy a car or anything of value cheaper than normal because they are a friend, that friend must offer to sell it back to you before offering it to the general public. My grandpa gave me a car, and when my brother needed a car I gave it to him. When my sister needed a car he gave it to her. When it needed brakes and exhaust work she took it to the junkyard and kept the money. I'm still bitter. That car had enormous sentimental value. It was a 1990 Oldsmobile 98. It was so fucking cool. If a guy needs a tampon, you give it to him, no questions asked. I'm from the south, so some of mine are probably southern type of things. Don't kill an animal unless you are going to eat it. Unless he starts it, you must defend your friend in a fight regardless of the odds. If he started it, you intervene before he gets fucked up to bad, but only enough to extricate him from the situation. If you go fishing, and it's not your boat, you buy the beer, ice, and bait. For close friends, show up to funerals, weddings, and birthdays, even if you don't want to pay for the bachelor at his bachelor party. If a friend is going through a bad breakup, it is the responsibility of the bro tribe to keep him out of the house as much as possible for the first few months. If your friend is generally a hard-working, industrious guy and they hit a financial rough spot and you can help, you help. In the event of a hurricane or other disaster, assemble the brothers, grab the chainsaws, shovels, coolers, and beer, and go house to house fixing shit. Don't wait for fucking FEMA, do the shit yourself. If a bro is in jail and you can afford to post bail, then you post bail. If a bro is stranded somewhere, you go get him, regardless of what time it is. If you are fighting, no matter what, don't touch the balls. Edit. Of course if someone is trying to kill you, crush these fuckers into a black hole. At least 2 pats on the back when hugging another guy. No sniffing their neck either, it's kind of frowned upon. Unless you are asked and willing to provide further details, keep remarks about the time you spent with someone vague and borderline childish. Example, you've spent a night with your GF. You did everything from oral to new positions to using some of her toys. Your description and summation of all these events can be stated as I got some. You absolutely never share a glass of milk with another man. This is odd. I've never seen such a foreign concept brought to my doorstep that I immediately agreed with. Brothers before hoes, but not before wives. Sure, it sucks when a buddy has to stay home for a weekend camping trip, but if his wife's sick and they have a 3-month-old, it's probably best that he keeps his family's interests above your own. Haha. A guy I know is getting married soon, and his bachelor party was supposed to be last weekend. Well, his best man couldn't make it as it was 2 weeks before his wife's due date, which everybody knew about before the groom picked the date. So the groom told off the best man and uninvited him from the wedding because he chose his wife and possibly the birth of his first child instead of camping along a river getting drunk. If their bedroom door open, be careful to sound your approach before popping in. Never know what he's up to. At urinal, dick in hand, don't talk to me, man. If you see another girl in an uncomfortable situation, you try to get her out of there or at least let her know that you got her back. I've done it for everyone, from my sister, to my friends' moms. One time at a school event, my best friend's mom somehow ended getting an unsolicited massage from another parent with boundary issues, and I quickly made an excuse up that I needed help at the concession stand. No one is too old or too young to do this. On the more lighthearted side, in my experience, when you hug another girl, you always try to slot the boobs by going slightly to the side so that you don't just mash your chests together and hurt someone. Thou shalt never hold a bro's wingman duties against him. When you're chatting up a girl, I don't care how unattractive the friend he's flirting with is, or how bad his flirting technique is. When he's distracting the air defenses to give you a clear run at the target, you do not insult his flying. Girl code: when another girl asks how she looks, if you have something negative to point out, do it gently and follow up with at least one or more positive. You gotta use the sandwich. Compliment, insult, compliment. As a guy that lifts weights and has brought some of his other male and 2 female friends into the fold, you never ever slander another person's weight on any lift. If your friend is 250 pounds and only benches 135, but is trying his ass off, then you never make a sound other than howling intense encouragement at them. The rule in my basement is, everything is heavy to somebody. As long as you're giving it your full ass, then the number is irrelevant. When was the moment you realized that your best friend wasn't your best friend? Our conversations were getting shorter and less intriguing. One day, I received great news and wanted to share it to my best friend. I then realized that they deleted and blocked me on Facebook. While they were driving, everyone decided they wanted to party. No one had money, so they suggested they should call Varvatus, he always has money. I was sitting in the back seat. I was like, I'm right here, and I'm not in the mood to party tonight. I was totally this guy bud with tree. I was always hooked up and knew everyone in town. That's old bud pretty much, so whenever a friend of mine had a drought they'd always come to me. But then these 2 fellas decided I'm always holding and that they could save a fortune just mooching off me. I'd be more than happy to sell a cut of whatever I was holding, but that's never what these 2 wanted. They just wanted to put their feet up at my place all afternoon and smoke my weed. Once I was at work and they texted me asking if I left my door unlocked for them. What? We live in a fucking shithole. No, my door's not fucking unlocked. Not even when I'm home. Do I leave the deadbolt open? So naturally the follow-up was if they could get my keys so they can hang out at my place, and asked where I keep my tree in the same message. Texted them a long tangent about how disrespectful they're being, and all he could fucking say was chill the fuck out bro, it's not a big deal. Next time they came over I happily packed and let my bum. And when the guy reached out for me to pass it over I just cocked a bro and took another rip. After I told him he ain't smoking if he can't match, and somehow that makes me the villain. They left early that day and stopped coming over after a couple more attempts at toking my hard-earned bud. When we went out to eat and I offered her to pay, as usual, because she told me that she forgot her purse, she ordered loads of food and ate only half of it. After leaving, her shoelace was loose and she bent over to tie her shoe and a $100 bill was sticking out of her back pocket. She did this for 4 years and I never realized. Gave her another chance without saying a word. 3 days later I found out she was constantly using my Instagram to text my ex-boyfriend to end my current relationship. I think she never got slapped so hard. When my best friend had marriage troubles, I was there for him. All through his wife's infidelity, the divorce, and the custody battle. I testified on his behalf in court, and he got custody of the kids. Fast forward 2 years later, when I find out my wife is cheating on me, he's not really interested in talking to me about it so much, and even acts like he's not home when I stop by for a visit. And no, he wasn't the one my wife was cheating with. He's a good dad and a fun guy to hang around with, but he's just not emotionally available to help other people out much. When she got s-faced drunk at my her godson's, wedding, trashed a hotel room, called me horrible names, and punched me closed fist in the face. She ended up passed out on the grounds of the hotel, came to and was arrested for trespassing because she refused to leave the premises. Days later, via email, blaming me because she didn't realize she was harboring so much animosity towards me. Bye bye. When I found out she was sleeping with my boyfriend, f***ing H. When they would talk and talk and talk about themselves, but never ask about me. This can be a tricky one, especially if you're an introvert. It can seem like a full relationship because you learn so much about them, but later you finally realize they don't know a thing about you because they never ask or have to go when you start talking about yourself. Sucks to realize it. I found out she was uploading my art to a bad art blog. I only found out because she sent me 2 paragraphs telling me I was a horrible friend anonymously on Tumblr. Then when I went to her crying over it wondering who it was, she said it was her and then blocked me. I thought I could still fix things, but then I found the bad art blog with my art on it and found out she was talking shit about me to her other friends. I was only 15, and even though it's been years since it, I'm still fucked up by it in some ways. If you don't like someone, don't pretend to like them and make fun of them behind their backs. Just let them know you feel like you can't be friends anymore and distance yourself. Yeah, that will hurt in the short term, but it won't monumentally fuck over someone's entire psyche as being fake will. Best friends for a couple of years. We were in different classes. I wrote her a message that I'd be on my way to her. When I arrived, she forgot to alt-tab the chat window with someone else making fun of me at the worst possible way. At that time she was my only friend. Was tough to have no friends after that for a long time. This might not sound like a lot, but I think that scared me, and I'm still struggling making friends. Edit. Holy shit. That wave of responses is just crazy. Thanks for everyone who's reaching out to me. Also, thanks for the silver kind stranger. Best friend of 15 years. It all unraveled the night he told my cousin to kill herself, tried to start a fight with multiple people at my house, and flipped off my mom. Edit. Yes, he was drunk at the time. No, I'm not reaching out to him. Disrespect to my family is an irredeemable offense in my eyes. He's out of my life completely now. My best friend of high school, someone who I thought would be in my life for a long time, started to hit on a girl that I was talking to. He would lie about me to change her opinion of me, and the best part is he never admitted to a thing. Maybe not that bad, but I felt really betrayed. When I opened up to her about my postpartum depression, and she told me that she didn't have time for depression, and it was weak. I was never vulnerable with her, but I was dying inside. I needed someone, and she had told me she didn't care. I began shutting her out then. When she told me my husband and I would make hideous babies, because red-headed babies are the ugliest thing she has ever seen. She also locked me out of our hotel 4 hours from home with no way home at 3 AM that same day after an argument over her saying my husband kills people for a living. He's a chemist who works on developing chemotherapy. That was the last time I've spoken to her, 4 years ago. Such a jealous woman. Every time she called me, I would have to poop. Literally the sound of her voice would make my body want to expel waste. And this was before cell phones, so I had to do the poop dance in the hallway while trying to get off the phone with her. When I invited her to hang out with me at the nearby lake for my birthday, she said she would get back to me. She never did. Instead, she posted on her Snapchat story about how much fun she was having with her other friends. I stopped talking to her after that. I have lived within 2 hours of him for the last 6 years, and he has never come to visit me, always me visiting him. Last straw, had a huge July 4th BBQ and invited him, and he declined, so he could go to a lake with strangers. Fuck you, Rick. That's fucked up. I'm out of touch with my sister, who's lived within an hour's drive of me my whole life and only visited once in 17 years. I've visited her uncountable times, went to her wedding, her diploma ceremony, her birthdays, played with her kids, random social calls. 6 years ago I moved to the same city, 15 minutes away. I invited her over multiple times, even setting a date 3 times. She just didn't show up without cancelling. I had to get free from work 2 of those days, which wasn't easy. After the 3rd time, when my amazingly social and friendly roommate came in all enthusiastic to meet my sister finally, and saw the disappointment on my face, she told me it's just unfair. She was right. Bye bye C's. What are some girl secrets guys don't know about? The aftermath of shaving our lady parts is a 2-week long nightmare. After 3 days of smoothness, we are left with the world's itchiest stubble rubbing up against panties, ingrown hairs from the constant pressure of yoga pants and skinny jeans, not to mention the fact that our vajayjay now feels like the face of a scruffy man. Edit. All the dudes saying just keep shaving it then. IDK if you read the other replies, but it actually makes it no less than 100x worse. 0.3 days. Plus, I'm lucky if I get a day and a half. We get so turned on that our clit actually hurts sometimes. The throb on my knob. Might not be a girl exclusive thing, but I personally need a lot more foreplay to actually enjoy sex. Most of the time I can't get off from strictly penetration, no matter how badly we both want it. Can we bring back dry humping? It never left. I think most girls appreciate emotional support in those situations more than advice. When I'm crying, I don't want my partner to tell me what I should do. My wife says I don't want you to fix it. I just want to tell you about it. Took me a while to get used to that. Same reasoning applies to daughters. In pants hard bulge pic, actual pic of your dick. What my girlfriend just told me though is apparently the grey sweet pants make it look so much better, and not many guys tell you that. Like so much better. The grey pants dick print is everything. When girls are particular about their hair products, it's not us being overly superficial or picky. When your hair is long, the right shampoo / conditioner / drying routine can be the difference between soft waves and a dry ratty mess. This, my boyfriend doesn't understand why I can't just use his shampoo / conditioner 2-in-1. His hair is soft using it, so mine would be 2 in his eyes. What he doesn't realize is all of his hair is an inch or 2 away from his scalp, and mine isn't. The ends would be so dry. We love it when you moan and make noises during sex. Don't be the silent type. Let me know I'm pleasing you, god damn it. This is one of the number 1 things that get me off. Silent partners make for sad sex. The true reason we go to the toilet together is that the waiting queue would usually so long that alone we will A, get really bored, and B, feel a little excluded from the conversation for some minutes when we come back to the group. So we go together and chat the whole time we are waiting. Honestly, it's a little like the yawn response, where if someone else needs to pee it feels like maybe I do too. At least in my experience, not a single girl I've ever interacted with has been turned on by an unsolicited dick pic. And trust me, D has tried. Drunk girls in the bathroom are the nicest girls in the world. Same in men's bathroom. Brothers for life. Some of the best friendships you'll ever have, lol. Seriously, immediate bonding. For fuck's sake, if I say I'm about to come, that does not mean change one single thing about what you're doing. Don't go faster or slower, or god forbid change the position. Just stay exactly as you are. Please. Sometimes you fuck up the rhythm by saying that. Edit. Now I'm about to come thinking about you coming and now I'm afraid of getting there first. Is there anything on my butt? Is code for has my period leaked? Bro, is there anything on my butt? Nah, I don't see any blood. What are you talking about? Chris, I'm not stupid. I browse Reddit. I'm super late to this party, but I lift my boobs up, so I feel like I can breathe without the weight of them. Have no idea if anyone else does this tbh. It's a great feeling. Once in a while I put mine on a table and I imagine this is what it feels to be free. Guy here, I do this with my belly. Every so often, something itches. Is it a yeast infection? Is it a bacterial infection? Is your pubic hair growing back in? Is it dryness? Is it irritation? Did something get stuck in your underwear? The answer is that 99% of the time everything is fine, but you're still gonna worry and squirm uncomfortably trying to get it to stop. And also yeast infections in general, much more common than one would think, and absolutely goddamn ruthless. A yeast infection feels like someone shoved a sea urchin up your snatch. Some of us get extremely horny during the period, or little before that. Not the best timing, and not so many men dig it. My wife gets horny and irritable at the same time. Definitely not the best combo. She'll complain all day and then wonder why I wasn't enthusiastically initiating anything in bed. It took me a few years to notice the pattern. Same. Few days before, horny AF but also so irritated. Few days after, extremely close but not horny at all. No winning at all. Half the time I'm readjusting my bra I'm actually trying to scratch my nipple. Edit. 7.8k upvotes. Thanks guys. Whenever I readjust my pants chances are I'm trying to scratch my nuts, so I can relate. Lol. So true. Some of us have to shave our toes. And nipples. I pluck those. And little happy trails. Put me down for all of the above. I suppose guys are warned about unexpected boners when they get sex ed, the same how girls are warned that discharge is normal as they are going through puberty. I see a lot of discussion about said boners. I guess the girl's secret would be just how frequent it was to go to the bathroom and suddenly your underwear was so soaked it was insane. This is talking high school / middle school age, so careful with the replies lol. And it could dry on them and make them crusty. It could get bad enough that the underwear could get holes in them if they go long enough without being washed. Sorry for the grossness. Tween girls can be unsanitary too lol. Edit. I feel like I should add this. BTW the comment about how people learn about unexpected boners and discharge. The more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm convinced it came from reading magazines targeted at teens girls haha. I think M was one haha. But they used to mention the discharge all the time, and I'm sure I heard about boners from that as well. That's where the holes came from. Our favorite bra hasn't been washed in 2 weeks. Edit. It is winter, so maybe I should have said 6 weeks. Oops. I told this to my male co-workers one time and they were horrified to say the least. Hey girl, will you walk behind me to check if I'm leaking? That goes hand in hand with double checking your seat when you get up. Oof yeah. I always check, but I have no idea about what I should do if it's actually stained. I had a terrible experience more than once BC of COS and very irregular sudden heavy periods. I'm usually very aware of signs that it might be happening soon, but a few times I've been caught off guard. But the worst was about 3 months ago. I doctor-apped sitting in the chair in the waiting room filling out my paperwork. Stand up and there is a very large noticeable puddle. I just had to suck it up. Tell the technician. I offered to clean it myself, but she refused, and I apologized and left. I did reschedule and went to my next appointment and was treated like nothing happened. So that was nice. Some women get blood clots in our periods, and it feels like you're giving birth so a jellyfish. OMG don't sneeze, or the world's largest jellyfish will shoot out. When you stand up, after sitting for a long time, and it feels like the elevator scene from The Shining but more jelly. Not to mention getting up in the morning. The frantic waddle the bathroom is always fun. Boob acne is a thing that happens, and it's perfectly normal, trust me. Same with stretch marks around the breasts and thighs. Oh yes, the thighs/boobs stretch marks. SMH at some people who say they don't like stretch marks, but they fetishize large thighs and boobs. My dude, bad news. We have so many hair related issues, plucking dark random nipple hairs, trying to line up when we shave our areas to when we hook up, to avoid guys from seeing razor burn or ingrown hairs. Before getting out of the shower we had to pick out hair from our butt crack that fell out from washing our hair, pubes growing and sticking out of our undies, pubes getting stuck in pads or liners. Hell hath no fury like a woman who shaved and didn't get laid. I shave a few days before a doctor's appointment. That way it doesn't look like I shaved specifically for them. Even though I did. I know they're not fussed, but I get sweaty down there if I don't keep things tidy, and I'm sure their day would be improved slightly if they didn't have to deal with that. If you have sex without a condom, we need a good few minutes after to let everything drain out of us. I always tell my boyfriend BRB gotta go ooze because I love seeing the cringe. I try to come up with new ways to phrase this. So far my partner's favorite has been exorcising the semens. Gotta spice it up. Ick now. Edit. Spelling ugh. Edit 2. Found lost limb. Sluicing the juices. Spitting seeds. Unges. Dropping the kids off at the pool. Explogiamus. Skeetus deletus. And of course, splish splash dropping cum from my ass. Sometimes if you fart, it doesn't escape through the fabric. Instead it rolls all the way from the back to the front with a noticeable little pop. It's never a good feeling. Edit. Apparently this happens to a lot of dudes too. Not gonna lie, I assume the ballast stop it escaping the front. I've heard it described by people as exiting through the gift shop. When it happens to a guy, it's called toasting the almonds. What's your dirty little secret? I pooped in my ex's cat litter. I don't have a cat. Then whose litter box did I shit in? I'll admit, I still don't get that joke. The litter box is a box filled with cocaine. Wade shat in it. I always assumed that it was an absurdist joke and didn't need any literal kitty litter. I sharted at my best friend's wedding, spent 40 minutes in the toilet cleaning up, and threw away my underwear in the middle of a field. Semi-related to this, at a wedding I was once at, I had a really bad stomach ache. The kind that you know, needs a follow-up visit to the toilet pretty soon, but I couldn't get away to do that all day as I was a groomsman, and had minor things to do. Later in the evening, I'm at almost maximum capacity, and need to release some excess gas. A huge crowd had gathered around a table playing beer pong, and I dropped the biggest / smelliest fart of all time at the table. Within seconds people picked up on it, yet I tried to play it cool. As people's heads turned in my direction to see who it was that had dealt it, there was another person present right next to me. It was the head bridesmaid, and she was very drunk. So drunk she couldn't even process the smell of what had just been dropped right next to her, despite everybody else in the near vicinity clocking it. I put on a mild show and blamed her. To my surprise, everybody just went with it, and even though she protested, she was so drunk her words would not form a regular sentence, and people sent her off to bed to expel the demon from her body. TL. Doctor, I dropped a clanger of a fart and blamed it, successfully, on the head bridesmaid. Edit. Wow, this gained some minor attention. Thank you kind user for the silver. My second silver, and any award here, ever. I'm very grateful. Thank you for liking my fart story. Guys, they said dirty little secret, not what unprosecuted sex crimes are you running out the statute of limitations clock on. PO2/PO tattoo. Wife and I are currently separating, and I've been wary because she's spent a lot of time with a guy she knows, including staying over a lot. She has been claiming that nothing is or will happen, that it's the last thing on her mind right now, etc. She came home last Thursday morning with a shopping bag where she'd picked up some juice for our children on the way home and put some of her own stuff in it too. I thought I'd help out when she went to work by emptying said bag, only to pull out a suspender belt with stockings attached. So my secret is that I didn't tell her that I found that last week. Something is definitely happening, either with that dude or another. I went through that in 2010, found vibrating condoms in my now ex's purse. Divorced, married an awesome woman in 2014. Unload the cheater and start a better life 2020. You will thank 2019 you. Vibrating condoms. What? I puked in my friend's staircase after too many shots. Luckily she didn't notice when we left her place the next morning and only saw it when we got back. Her and her flatmate discussed who could have done it and whether it could have been the neighbor's dog. but in the end thought it was too much puke for a dog, despite me saying it could totally have been the dog. In the end they figured it must have been one of the downstairs neighbors who apparently are known for coming home super drunk. Dog puke is nothing like human puke, really bad scapegoat. Source: have had to clean up dog puke multiple times. I've masturbated to nearly every decent looking female I've ever met, and still look them straight in the face like I'm innocent. Ever met that one fat girl who isn't too fat, but noticeably bigger than most, and had a pretty face, and huge thighs and ass you just wanted to fuck senseless? Okay, I guess it's 17-year-old me in high school then. Relatable. Also 17. I've cracked one off in every bathroom of every office I've ever worked. This isn't normal, not according to ours. Damn, that chic from ours is the whole reason I need to bang one out in the handicap stall. I'm a pretty handsome guy and everyone thinks I have an easy time talking to girls. However, I'm awkward as shit and I also wear women's clothing. To elaborate further, I do it in private and don't often tell women about it. On one occasion one girl went shoe shopping with me, and that's how I got my first pair of high heels. I love pantyhose, I love it on women, and I love it more so on myself. Sometimes I would wear full lingerie underneath my normal clothes and go to school or work. Escalated quickly at the end. He's a lumberjack and he's okay. My mom assumes I lost my virginity to my first serious boyfriend in high school. In reality, it was one of the guys working construction on the new house behind us. Definitely glad I faked sick from school that day. Edit: I was over the age of consent, so everyone messaging me stop asking lol. This sounds like a whole porno, I need the whole story. It's not nearly as interesting as it probably sounds. I was 17, he was 20, and went to school with my brother. I knew him sorta well, and it wasn't uncommon for him to stop by our house to use our guest bathroom or get a drink. He also would often leave his lunch in our refrigerator. Anyway, I played hooky from school one day. My dad was at work and my mom had just left to go out to lunch with friends. He stopped by to get his lunch, surprised to see me. He gave me a bunch of crap about skipping school. We watched TV for a few minutes. I'm sure you all can use your imagination as to what happened next. But you yada jadded over the best part. I shower naked. You slut. Absolute whore. I bet they're naked under their clothes right now too. Disgusting. I actually like a few Nickelback songs. Honestly, this is too far. Absolutely disgusting. I sucked a guy's dick, so he'd buy me boba. Did it come with the tapioca pearls? The boba, I mean, not the dick. Of course. And I wish the dick did as well, haha. Despite the fact that I tell dad jokes constantly at work, I have no kids. Major forks pa. Major forks papa. I once burst into a liter of sweet vermouth after hours at the country club I worked at, then fed the whole bottle, straight-faced, to a jackass customer the next day. He said I made the best Manhattans. I watched the man drink my piss for most of the day. Jesus Christ, is your name Tyler Durden?
What is the worst date you've ever had? I don't know if I'd call it my worst, as my worst was pretty typical for a bad date after being fixed up by someone else. Neither of us would have asked the other out. But the most interesting was this one. I met a girl online in a game we both played and hit it off pretty well. We were both older gamers, but not elderly, late 30s, and it seemed we had a lot in common. I drove up to meet her for the weekend, and our date got interrupted by a phone call. Her daughter was in the hospital giving birth to her grandchild. We rushed over, and it turned out the father hadn't arrived and would be delayed for a while. So she asked me to stand in for him as we walked into what I discovered was the delivery room. So I was in the delivery room with her and her sisters, the great aunts to be, while her daughter was giving birth. And I witnessed everything, and boy do I mean everything. After the excitement was over, everyone started congratulating me, and I had to try to explain that I wasn't the father, but his stand-in. At this point nothing left to do but go with the flow. The father arrived, shook my hand, and thanked me for looking after his wife for him. Very odd day indeed. It ended up not working out. I'm now married to someone else, but that's a story for another time. That actually sounds like an awesome date. but I can't imagine what it would have been like for the daughter giving birth with some random guy in the room she hadn't met before. Lol. Went to the movies as a teenager with a girl 1 year older. Thought I scored big. Hand holding led to bad hand sweat. We hardly talked the whole time. Then later on she told me she made out with her ex and got back together with him. Haha. Man, that's messed up, but I hope you're with someone who deserves you. Met some guy on a dating app. He didn't have really clear pictures, should have been a red flag, but he was killing it with Roman numeral jokes, so I decided to give it a shot. We met up at a coffee place, and holy shit. He looked almost exactly like someone I knew. Same hair, same eyes, same pale skin, and even the same stutter and twitchy mannerisms. That someone that I knew happened to be an autistic guy. Nothing against autistic people in general, but this particular dude was a piece of work, who constantly wore a cape, talked about communism, and stalked me and a friend of mine for a while. Tried to have a pleasant conversation for an hour, then made an excuse and left. He was actually a fairly decent dude, but the resemblance to that guy creeped me the hell out. I usually make it a point not to ghost people, but I'm also not a liar. And there was no way I could reasonably tell him, sorry, you look and act exactly like some guy who tried to stalk me once, so it's a no from me. So I ghosted him. I had actually had a date earlier that day as well, and I had tripped on a rock and scraped my hands and knee pretty well, and got stung by a bee on my back like 10 minutes later. It was not a good day. Been single for a while, so found a guy on what used to be the Craigslist personals. Already a bad idea. Met a gentleman who said he made 6 figures, was from Asia, and talked himself up a lot. I figured I would give him a shot. Welp, we decided to go to dinner and a movie. Awkward conversation at dinner was bad enough because we had nothing in common. I must have been about 21 and he was 35. Went to the movie, and about halfway through this horror flick, he turns my head and forces me to kiss him and shoved his tongue down my throat. It was at that point I should have left. But the rest of the movie was him trying to cuddle me in the theater or hold my hand. I don't think I have had a worse one since. Admit it, you only went out with him because he makes 6 figures. The one and only date I ever walked out on in the middle of it. I met up with this guy for dinner for a first date, and it was so ridiculous that I wondered whether I was being pranked. After we sit down, he begins to boast about how much money he makes, telling me he has a sweatshop in Bangladesh that manufactures cheap clothes for Walmart. Worker exploitation is not a turn on for me, but I didn't say anything since I just met him and didn't want to talk politics. But I guess he could tell I wasn't impressed, because he compliments me saying, well, let's leave politics aside. I'm glad you came out, you're hot and I like that you're white. Blacks and Asians and all the others don't do it for me. I say that racism isn't less political nor any more attractive of a quality. He says he isn't racist, and to demonstrate this fact, he proceeds to point out all the non-white women he'd fuck in the restaurant. For example, the black one over there, even though she's black, is still an 8. I'd do her, just not talk to her or call her back, or establish any sort of relationship with her. He continues to assess all the women of color for at least 10 minutes. At this point I questioned whether there was a hidden camera or something and this was a prank. But unfortunately nothing of that sort happens. So I tell him to please stop ranking all the women because it makes me uncomfortable. He assures me it's not racist, nor sexist to do this, but merely a question of preference. And I should be glad that he's honest with me. To demonstrate his honesty, he tells me about his dislike of fat chicks. He then compliments me again, saying that I looked fit. He then cautions me though, saying you ordered a burger. It's great that you think you can ingest all those calories, but a salad can also be filling. Put money down for my meal and left.
Children of pornsters, when and how did you find out your parents were pornsters, and what is your most awkward moment with them? Does having to wait in the car while your mom meets randoms at the rent by the hour hotel? She never made it to the big screen, but it was not due to lack of effort. I forgot to add that she was married to my dad at the time, and I finally told him, and he had no idea, being around 7 years old when I told him, and being blamed by mother for the divorce fucked me up more than what I watched my mother do. That really sucks. My mom has been an escort my whole life, and has been weirdly open about it. Like she's really proud of it, but it's horrible when your mom brags to all of your friends when you're a teenager. I was about 11 when I realized what she was doing. She's never really had a real job for more than 3 months and has embarrassed me over and over again throughout my life. I'm 25 now, and she's still working the same job she brags about. Your mother doesn't sound like a good mother. The first day of my freshman year in high school, I sit down for my second period English class next to this cute girl. Class lasts like 15 minutes and everyone proceeds to talk to each other. The cute girl and I start talking, and she asks me, "Do you know my mom?" I've never met this girl before, and I think this is a weird question. So, I reply no. She pulls out a trading card with her mom completely naked. Turns out her mom was a Playboy playmate and was in their bench warmer series. I feel like this was a weird way to introduce yourself, but hey, welcome to high school. 2 years later I'm working with her aunt, the playmate's sister. We'd routinely get calls from Playboy Enterprises on the work phone. I began getting suspicious on Take Your Kid to Work Day. That was my first hint. Before that, there was Make Your Kid at Work Day. Fuck, that one was clever. Used to be a teacher 9th grade. A bunch of students energetically talking. I ask what's up. Mrs. So and so used to make porn. Later, I had to look it up. Yup, that was her 15 years ago. Never talked to her about it. I believe you. Random person on the internet describing Mrs. So and so, like he just gave up on the story and decided a brief synopsis was enough. Not my parents, but my friend sent me a link to one of those buckache videos with the header that I should see who so and so many minutes into the clip. Turns out my then husband was standing there in the background, unable to get it up. That's not the only reason we are not married anymore. You learned something about your husband and your friend that day. How did they find that out? Lol. Yeah, as the years go by the bitterly video ages worst and worst. When I was in high school, I liked to browse your usual edgelord websites. One of them happened to be fucked.com. Browsing along, I came across a video titled something like Mom of the Year or whatever. It was about one porn star in particular, Tiffany Million. Coincidentally, a show had released around that same called Wife, Mom, Bounty Hunter, which we knew starred the mother of one of our classmates. Now, what are the chances that in the fucked biography of Tiffany Million, she mentions growing up in Arizona, becoming a bounty hunter, and shows a baby who looks a lot like our classmate? Long story short, we kind of spread the video in hopes of getting confirmation. Got confirmation, and then it got out of hand and sort of ruined this person's time at school for a little while. I'm sorry. I should also add, she seemed like a pretty well-known porn star back then. She even had like a 30 dude train on her with likes of Ron Jeremy and other porn stars I don't the names of. Fascinating stuff. This kid in my grade last year's mom was a porn star. We all found about it because, yeah, I know, high schoolers. The kid doesn't know. Everyone else does. As a result of his mom, the kid is so sheltered that he doesn't know what sex is. My friend cracked a joke and asked the kid if he was going to be a virgin until he was 40. The kid replied he has no interest in going to Virginia. Are you in 5th grade? Not currently. This happened last year and the kid was about 16 and a junior. And no, I don't know how this is possible either. Edit. For clarification, I was not a 5th grader last year. That was a poor attempt at humor. Not technically me, but a friend of mine was on Pornhub. 3 guesses what they were doing and came across a video of their mum. They didn't realize at first and just continued what they were doing until it became all too clear who he had just been jacking off to. Now most people in this situation wouldn't tell people, right? Well, that's not what he did, cause he's an idiot. He told me and a couple friends, including one who definitely isn't a friend anymore, who found and sent the video around to everyone we knew. It spread like wildfire and NGL. I feel kinda sorry for him cause people wear dicks to him because of it. Feel bad for him all you like, but someone who would admit to jacking off to their mom is in for a hard life no matter what. What mistake should have killed you? Taking on a plus 70 hours a week job just for the money. I hated the job, I hated my boss, and I hated myself. I could not look myself in the mirror anymore. I was this close to a heart attack, gained 60 kilograms, and could hardly sleep, but every month plus 12,000 on the bank account made me get up again and again. My wife said either you quit or I walk, really saved my life. Retentioning a garage door spring and the tension tool popped out. The door crashed with enough force to crack the pavement. Dove into a pool and broke my neck at the C2 level, hangman fracture it's called. I was so drunk I thought I just pulled a muscle or something, so I kept partying. There's pictures of me with a bag of frozen peas on my neck grilling, taking a shot from an ice luge, etc. all while my fucking neck was broken once the disc popped out, because I was playing chicken with someone on my shoulders in the same pool hours later. That's when I realized that maybe something was wrong. 1 emergency spinal fusion surgery, 5 days in the hospital, 3 months bedridden, medical discharge from the army, RIP that career, and I'm good as new. I totally should be dead or paralyzed. Doing heroin alone in my room without letting anybody know. I consider that to almost be a surefire way to accidentally kill yourself due to Van Calder's opioid crisis. I remember waking up with my back on my bed and a needle still in my arm. I was out for half an hour. I woke up feeling terrified and knew that this wasn't a life I wanted anymore. Now I'm a week sober. Might not sound like a lot, but quitting from $100 a day heroin habit to cold turkey meant that I was not a happy camper during my detox, but I stuck it out, and I'm proud of myself. Being a young insecure boy on a motorcycle. Passed out in the woods after running from the cops. I was at a party in college and decided I was done, so I started walking home. Got like half a mile from campus when a cop pulled over to talk to me. It was like 3 AM and my drunk ass can't walk in a straight line on the sidewalk. My instant drunk reaction to seeing the blue lights was to bolt into the woods at full speed. Naturally I can't see what obstacles are in my way, so at some point I had tried to either climb a fence or run through thorn bushes. Eventually I ran headfirst into a tree and fell down. I had probably the most absurd thought I've ever had. If I hold my breath the cops can't see where I am. So I did that and passed out while lying on my back in the woods. I woke up a few hours later as the sun was coming up and realized I had shredded my clothes and my face/arms looked like I had been attacked by an animal with all the scratches. The worst one being a vertical cut that went lengthwise down the interior of my forearm, starting at my wrist. This was 12 years ago, and I can still see the scar from that particular cut. The rest have healed and faded, but that one is still prominent. Had that been a little deeper I have no doubt I would have bled out while lying on the ground in the woods if I didn't already die from alcohol poisoning. There were probably 3 or 4 things that should have killed me that night but didn't. Didn't realize I had 37 porn tabs open on my phone when I handed it to my wife so she could check the weather forecast. I was driving a small car pulled in front of me and slammed their brakes. I couldn't stop in time. My truck wound up on top of their car. I was the only survivor of the vehicles involved. Car crash at 80 km/h. I hit a car that was going through a red light perpendicular to my direction of travel, came to a dead stop after hitting the back quarter panel/wheel of their car whilst they barrel rolled 3 times into the nature strip. I hit the windscreen with my head because I'm 6 feet 5 inches and wasn't wearing a seatbelt because I thought I was top shit. Both myself and the other driver walked away unscathed, which was the most surprising of all. I was taken to the hospital because of my collision with the windscreen, but was released shortly after some scans that came back okay. I don't know what saved me or the other driver that day, but I thought I died for several seconds after the impact and airbags went off, only to realize I was a bit dazed but generally fine, which followed with moments of disbelief and joy. Marrying someone I pitied and thought it was my responsibility to take care of versus marrying someone for love. Well, does pre-existence count? When my mother was pregnant with me, she went to have an abortion. But as she arrived at the doctor office he asked her something along the lines of, "Woman, what are you doing here? Go home, the revolution has begun. They are shooting people." So she went home, because it was the start of the Romanian Revolution of 89 feet. So she decided to have me after all. Wasn't a mistake per se, but a chain reaction resulted in my existence. Not wearing a helmet while on a bicycle and stupidly turning left just as a car overtook me. Somehow I only got a neat scar through my eyebrow and some torn up kneecaps from it. But the look on my mother's face when she picked me up from the hospital, that made me realize how profoundly stupid I was that day. Edit. I did make a turn signal with my arm, but the driver apparently didn't see it. He later went over to the hospital to ask if I was okay and to apologize for hitting me. I had a very bad rebellious phase. At one point, I ran away from home for a week and hitchhiked my way across my country along with one of my friends. For context, we were both 15 to 16 at the time. One of the cars that gave us a ride happened to be two suspicious looking foreigners, older men, who spoke between themselves in a Turkish, and only one of them addressed us in our native tongue. But we were too dumb to realize the red flags. It finally occurred to us when they passed up our exit and refused to let us go when we indicated their mistake. I had to basically fake it that my father knew where I was and that he'd be expecting me at a certain spot at a certain time, not even knowing if that would work. It did, miraculously, and they let us go in the middle of nowhere. We had to basically hitch another ride home. Boy, was I stupid. My dad got trashed and tried to jump over the fence at Yankee Stadium with his friends. He failed and an iron spike punctured him. He remembers being rushed to the hospital and bleeding everywhere. Everyone thought he was going to die of blood loss. Didn't die, but he also made several more stupid mistakes, such as riding a motorcycle without a helmet and breaking several ribs, etc, etc. Honestly, he is still stupid, and I'm surprised he hasn't died yet. Before I was born, there was a malfunction with the airbag in my mum's car which hit my mom in the stomach. So basically I shouldn't be alive. As teenagers we used to smoke pot in the garage in the car with it running for hours. No idea how we didn't kill everyone in the house multiple times over. Tubing behind a speedboat. Pulled myself too far forward. It submarined and popped up in the air. I was flung forward and got tangled in the tow rope. Christmas Eve many years ago, and I couldn't sleep, so I took 2 sleeping pills. Was impatient, so I decided to take 2 more heavy duty allergy medication on top of the sleeping pills. Being a young naive boy, I had no idea the consequences of mixing medicine like that. That's maybe 3x the normal dosage for a 12-year-old. I felt extremely off for the following week or so.